dealer's choice.
Historians have done a very poor job acknowledging the contribution of this generation of men to the war economy of the United States.
Whenever I watch the World War II documentary, they talk about how Americans won the war. But who fed the Americans? Who fed the airlines? It was Mexicans braceros.
Join us tonight at 9 here on OPB.
Hi, I'm Mel Wagoner. If you're 70 and a half or older and you've got an IRA, I've got great news. A new federal law allows you to make charitable contributions from your IRA without penalty. And these tax-free gifts also count towards your mandatory withdrawals. This is a great way to support the OPB programs you love. Great shows like Nightly Business Report, Nova, and Masterpiece Theater. Like to learn more? Well, give me a call at 503-293-1935 to get this informative brochure. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks from OPB.
We take you into the toxic landscape of the Hanford Nuclear Weapons Complex for an investigation on the burrowing owl and its struggle to survive. Then, an in-depth look at the carpenter ant and how to control its destructive nature.
Ready, set, go.
And you'll meet a world champion sawyer who uses his experience and skills to keep a bit of Oregon history alive.
Oregon Field Guide, Thursday night at 8:30.
SAFE. Since 1914, SAFE has been protecting Oregon workers and making Oregon a safer place to work.
Alcoa takes a shine to Alcan. The Dow component is making a hostile takeover bid for its Canadian rival. Between stock, cash, and debt, Alcoa's bid values Alcan at $33 billion, and analysts say today's offer could be just the beginning.
Alcoa helped the Dow match its longest winning streak in 80 years, closing on the upside for 24 of the last 27 trading sessions. The blue chip surged 48 points to close at a new record high, 13,312.
This man is at the heart of a proxy fight at Motorola. Billionaire Carl Icahn wants to be on the company's board of directors. We'll detail tonight's shareholder vote and take a look at efforts underway to change the proxy process.
And I'm Susie Garoff in Omaha, Nebraska. Tens of thousands of Berkshire Hathaway shareholders came here over the weekend for their annual chance to meet the Oracle of Omaha. I talked with legendary investor Warren Buffett and asked him about the future of his company.
I'm Paul Kangas.
And I'm Suzanne Pratt. This is Nightly Business Report for Monday, May 7th.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by
A.G. Edwards. Objective financial advice can help make sure your nest egg is ready when retirement arrives. A.G. Edwards, fully invested in our clients.
Franklin Templeton Investments, providing a unique perspective through the specialized investment expertise of Franklin Templeton Mutual Series and Fiduciary Trust. Franklin Templeton Investments, gain from our perspective.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Alcoa has its eyes on number one. The world's second largest aluminum company hopes today's hostile takeover bid for Canadian rival Alcan will put it back on top. The cash, stock, and debt deal values Alcan at $33 billion. News of the bid sent Alcan shares soaring 35%, while Alcoa stock added 8%. Scott Gervey reports.
For 2 years, Alcoa has been sweet-talking Alcan of Canada. A marriage of the two would create the #1 company in the aluminum industry. Alcoa alone held that title until last March, when 2 Russian companies joined forces to take the #1 spot. Today, Alcoa CEO Alan Belda said the friendly talks with Alcan's directors had been unsuccessful, and it is time to take the offer directly to Alcan shareholders. "We are convinced," he said in a statement, "that this transaction creates substantial value for both sets of shareholders and for our customers around the world." Alcoa is offering both cash and stock to Alcan shareholders. It will also assume debt, bringing the total value of the deal to about $33 billion. Research Director Tom Burnett at Wall Street Access says other bidders may come forward.
Those are BHP out of Australia and RTZ, whose stock symbol on the New York Exchange is RTP, as in Peter. That's a UK company with extensive global mining operations. And both of those companies are larger by enterprise value than the combined Alcoa and Alcan. So we suspect that there could be further activity here.
The Alcoa bid will have to be convincing to regulators as well as Alcan shareholders. The combination would control so much of the aluminum market it could raise antitrust issues in the United States. And in Canada, regulators will be concerned about both the social and strategic consequences of a takeover by an American company. Scott Burns, metals analyst at Morningstar, says the tables could yet be turned on Alcoa.
A lot of this bid is preemptive, either Alcoa preempting a takeover of itself or Alcoa preempting another mining interest in going after Alcan. So, you know, strategically this deal makes a ton of sense. There's a lot of similarities here and a lot of synergies to be gained.
Alcoa says it can cut costs at the combined company by $1 billion a year. It promises to maintain dual head offices in Montreal and New York in an effort to appease Canadian critics. Scott Gervey, Nightly Business Report, New York.
That premium buyout bid Alcoa made for Alcan boosted bullish conviction on Wall Street today, as did growing confidence that the Federal Reserve would not raise rates at this week's policy meeting. At noon, the Dow posted a 40-point gain and the Nasdaq was up 4 points. About a $3 per share gain in Alcoa stock, which is a Dow component, kept the blue chip index buoyant for the rest of the session, while the broader market turned mixed. The Dow Industrial Average closed up 48.35 points at 13,312.97, its 5th straight record closing high. The Nasdaq Composite actually fell 1.20, ending at 2570.95. Standard & Poor's 500 rose 3.86 points to 1509.48. Over the bond market, the 10-year note rose 3/30 seconds to 99 and 30 seconds, putting the yield at 4.63%.
The battle for LaSalle Bank is intensifying. ABN AMRO has rejected a $24.5 billion offer for its LaSalle unit from a group led by Royal Bank of Scotland. ABN AMRO says the offer was not superior to the $21 billion deal reached with Bank of America. ABN also said it would hold a special meeting to allow shareholders to weigh in on the LaSalle sale. Bank of America has filed a lawsuit to defend its deal. Barclays' bid for ABN AMRO was contingent on that sale, but the RBS Group wants all of ABN's assets. Bank of America also has its eye on the mortgage market. In light of the housing slump and subprime mortgage problems, the bank is trying to attract customers into what it calls secure mortgages. Its new no-fee Mortgage Plus plan eliminates closing costs and application fees. Liam McGee is president of Bank of America's Consumer and Small Business Banking. He calls the program a win-win for consumers and the bank.
So we think by simplifying the process and eliminating what really annoys consumers the most, which is the fees, we're going to get more business, quite frankly, and we're also going to offer consumers a better product. Particularly in these times, consumers are looking for reputable institutions to make their mortgage, and we think Bank of America is that company.
On average, Bank of America says consumers would save about $3,000 on a $200,000 mortgage, but the program does not apply to subprime mortgages or refinancing.
Billionaire financier Carl Icahn soon will know whether his campaign to win a seat on Motorola's board is successful. The issue is being put to a shareholder vote at the cell phone maker's annual meeting this evening. Icahn and his affiliates have built up a 3% stake in Motorola. He's also won the backing of one of the company's largest shareholders, ClearBridge Advisors, which plans to vote for Icahn's election to the board. Motorola executives say Icahn is unqualified for the job and too busy with other commitments. Icahn says those same executives are to blame for the company's poor performance.
A nice performance for Berkshire Hathaway shares today, rising $1,240 or just over 1%. Investors embraced the company's solid quarterly earnings reported late Friday and upbeat comments over the weekend from Chairman Warren Buffett. At Berkshire's annual meeting in Nebraska, the so-called Oracle of Omaha talked about the outlook for the company and a variety of other issues. Susie Garrett reports from Omaha. It was a Warren Buffett weekend. He sang and played the ukulele. He stopped to buy his favorite orange popsicle.
Okay, you haven't raised the price, have you? Not yet.
He even found time for a game of bridge with his buddy Bill Gates. But no matter where he went, he was always surrounded by adoring shareholders looking to shake hands with the legendary investor. 27,000 shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway came to hear the Oracle of Omaha at the company's three-day get-together that was more like a festival than an annual meeting. But the main event that Buffett calls Woodstock for capitalists was an all-day shareholder meeting. Some people waited all night in the rain for a good seat inside the Quest Convention Center. They came for many reasons.
I learned a lot from just listening to Warren.
I wanted to experience this in my lifetime.
I wanted to see Warren Buffett while he was still alive.
The meeting was closed to cameras, but Buffett answered a wide range of questions. On subprime mortgages, they won't hurt the economy. On private equity takeovers, the merger frenzy will continue. On executive compensation, it's still too high. And in an unusual move, Buffett allowed 45 minutes of discussion on Berkshire's controversial investment in PetroChina, the Chinese oil company. Critics took out newspaper ads ahead of the meeting, urging Buffett to sell the stake because the company indirectly provides financial support for the genocide in Darfur. Still, shareholders, including Buffett, overwhelmingly defeated the proposal. But the big question on everyone's mind was who will run Berkshire after Warren Buffett is gone. Chris Davis, whose Davis Advisors Fund owns a large stake of Berkshire stock, says it won't be easy to fill Buffett's big shoes.
Well, Warren Buffett is irreplaceable, and an important part of the return over time at Berkshire has been Warren's ability to allocate capital at very high returns. And no matter who he gets to succeed him, it's very, very low probability that they will be as good.
Buffett, now 76, shows no signs of slowing down. He says he feels terrific and has no plans to retire. But he's given Berkshire's board the names of 3 people within the company capable of doing his job. Speculation is that the candidates include Tony Nicely, who runs auto insurer Geico, David Sokol, CEO of Mid-American Energy, Richard Santulli, head of NetJets, and Ajit Jain from Berkshire's reinsurance unit. The other management mystery is who's going to take over as Berkshire's chief investment officer. Right now, Buffett and Lou Simpson, co-CEO of Geico, run the company's huge portfolio of investments, which includes Coca-Cola and American Express.
It's not quite American Idol, but at the moment we've got maybe 600 or 700 applications of one sort or another. Shortly after this meeting, I'm going to go through those, narrow it down to 30 or 40, and then try to narrow it down to 3 or 4. And I hope by this time next year that I have 1 or more people that will be possibilities for succeeding me in that position.
Succession is such a big worry because investors think only Buffett has the magic touch when it comes to acquisitions. Successful brand names like Dairy Queen, Geico, and Fruit of the Loom are among the 70 or so companies that Buffett's bought over the past 4 decades. Berkshire has $43 billion in cash, a concern for some investors who want to make sure that huge sum is invested wisely. For now, Buffett says he's looking for jumbo-size acquisitions.
I'm out there stalking these elephants, but they're hard to find, and there's a lot of competition for the elephants these days. But we need big businesses to move the needle at Berkshire. We have 160 or 70 billion of market value. So if we're going to increase that at a reasonable clip, you know, we can't do it by buying lemonade stands.
He says the world is on his radar, and he's looking for deals outside the U.S. Last summer, he made his first international acquisition, Iskar, an Israeli machine tool company.
We will comb the globe, and we would love to make large deals outside the United States, and I think we have a better chance of doing that than we did a few years ago.
Shares of Berkshire Class A have been struggling because of the uncertainty surrounding the future of Buffett and his company. The stock's been in a narrow trading range so far this year after rising 50% over the previous 5 years. Morningstar analyst Justin Fuller rates Berkshire's A shares a strong buy and believes they're worth $141,000.
A lot of people aren't giving the company credit for even Mr. Buffett being here today. And, you know, I think that the culture and both the model he's built here is going to give whoever takes over from him eventually really a head start on his competitors.
Some investors point out that Berkshire shares would get a boost if the company would split the stock, pay a dividend, or buy back shares. But those are things that Buffett doesn't believe in, and for now, he's still calling the shots. Susie Garab, Nightly Business Report, Omaha, Nebraska. Ford Motor says it's moving ahead with its Way Forward restructuring plan. The struggling automaker says so far 25,000 factory employees have accepted buyout offers. Ford also announced plans today to shutter a Cleveland, Ohio casting plant in 2009. The 55-year-old factory makes parts for full-size trucks, vans, and SUVs and employs more than 1,200 people. And Ford has now named 10 of the 16 plants it plans to close as part of its restructuring, Paul.
Suzanne, Ford shares today were down 6 cents, closing at $8.16. Now let's take a look at some other stocks in the news tonight. Big board volume leader, as you might expect, Alcoa on 22.5 million shares, moving up $2.97. That gain alone accounted for about half of the Dow's 48-point closing gain. Then came Motorola. You heard the story about Carl Icahn there. Pfizer, 30-cent gainer. Time Warner moved up 43 cents. And then Alcan itself up $21.08 or 34.5%. As you heard, Alcoa's bid is $58.60 a share in cash, plus about 0.4 of a share of Alcoa. Today, at the close of trading, that would be worth about $74.50 a share for Alcan. GE, 9-cent gainer. EMC, 29-cent rise there. ExxonMobil up 28 cents. Micron Technology gained a nickel. And then came AT&T with a 12-cent closing gain. Johnson & Johnson slipped 22 cents a share on news that trials for the company's CoStar 2 drug-eluting coronary stent were not successful. Then we see Armor Holdings up $4.45. BAE Systems will acquire Armor Holdings, which is the maker of armored vehicles, and the price $88 per share. Wendy's International up $1.52. Call option trading has been very active in the stock, and 2 weeks ago, you might recall, the company formed a special committee to explore alternatives, including the possible sale of the entire company. Darden Restaurants moved up $2.29 to $2.29 on plans that it's going to sell its money-losing Smoky Bones restaurant operations. Positive reaction to that. Cooper Tire and Rubber up $1.53. Last Wednesday, the company reported a first-quarter turnaround, 33 cents in earnings versus a loss of 8 cents a year ago. The street estimate was for earnings of only 14 cents, so the stock continues higher. USEC Incorporated up $1.79. This company's in the uranium enrichment business. First-quarter earnings came in at 45 cents, up from 40 a year ago, and revenues were up a hefty, said 29%. Chemed Corporation, which incidentally owns the Roto-Rooter label, up $3.68 last Tuesday. First-quarter earnings reported sharply higher. Today, Deutsche Bank Securities upgraded it from hold to a buy. And then American States Water rising $1.36. A.G. Edwards upgraded it from hold to buy because of its reasonable valuation and also an improving regulatory situation in California. Office Max down $2.64 last Thursday. The company reported flat earnings, and Lehman has since cut its price target from $58 to $44 a share. And then Tenaris, the Canadian steel pipe manufacturer, down $2.75. First quarter earnings a bit higher, 41 cents versus 36, but down 11% from the fourth quarter, so sequentially not so good. Apple topped the NASDAQ active list with a gain of $3.11. Microsoft, 15-cent rise. Google fell $3.85. Cisco, a dime loss. Yahoo was off 60 cents a share. $2.41 drop in Amazon. Intel, a 6-cent gainer. Research in Motion moved up $1.81. Hansen Natural up $1.10. Goldman Sachs made some positive comments on Hansen. And Dendreon was down $1.47. Ohio Casualty up $9.85 on news. Liberty Mutual Group will acquire it for $44 a share in cash. And those are the stocks in the news tonight. Suzanne?
Traditionally on Wall Street, proxy voting at a company's annual meeting was a cut-and-dried process, with shareholders generally voting as management instructed. Not anymore. These days, shareholders are using the proxy process to voice displeasure with management on issues ranging from CEO pay to global warming. And as Stephanie Dew reports, the Securities and Exchange Commission is considering how to update the process.
From Carl Icahn's demand for a new strategy and a seat on the board of Motorola to reining in CEO pay, shareholders are increasingly using the proxy process to force change. The Securities and Exchange Commission today began a review of that system. SEC Chairman Christopher Cox says he wants to make sure the proxy process works for investors.
We want to make sure that system is working well. We want to make sure that the directors are responsive to the shareholders, that the shareholders as owners of the company have rights. This is an old system. It's been in place for a long time. We're taking a top-to-bottom look at how it's functioning in this new world of hedge funds and global investing.
Activists want the SEC to clarify that investors can use the corporate proxy process to nominate candidates to a company board. Ann Yerger represents institutional investors. She says the key issue is upholding shareholders' rights.
What's happened through the shareholder proposal rule has been so profound, particularly in the past few years, from majority voting for directors, accounting for stock options, executive pay-related issues. These have all bubbled to the surface through shareholder proposals. So I think it's very important that this tool remain open, vibrant, and current so that owners can exercise their rights.
But many businesses don't want to make it any easier for shareholder activists to get a seat on corporate boards. Columbia Law School professor Jack Coffey says it's an issue of control.
Anytime you begin to, even at the margin, reallocate the balance of power between managers and shareholders, you get the board of directors and you get America's managers very nervous. And thus this commission is probably quite divided over this issue.
The SEC is expected to introduce new rules this summer and should have a proposal finalized before the start of next year's proxy season. Stephanie Dew, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
Tomorrow, Of Mutual Interest profiles a deep value fund manager who sees green in distressed companies.
Here's a look at what's happening tomorrow. The March wholesale trade numbers are released, and we'll see earnings from Cisco Systems, Revlon, Tyco International, and Walt Disney. Tonight's commentator says a recession just isn't in the cards for the U.S. economy. He's Bernard Baumol, director of the Economic Outlook Group.
Legendary Hollywood producer Sam Goldwyn was always a skeptic of the crystal ball. Never make predictions, especially about the future, he once warned. His disdain for forecasts is understandable. Today, money managers are grappling with at least 3 radically different predictions of what the economy will do. One foresees a recession later this year as the economy succumbs to the fallout from housing and higher energy prices. A second forecast merely calls for slow growth the rest of the year. And a third expects the economy to rebound sharply in the second half thanks to a recovery in housing and vigorous consumer spending. So which of these diverse predictions has the best chance of materializing? To begin with, a recession is still highly unlikely. The most probable scenario is for continued modest growth this year, followed by a faster expansion in 2008. And here's why. Home sales have plummeted, and that has hurt the economy. But it's not a crisis. Indeed, the median price of homes has held up fairly well. This stability in home prices, plus the remarkable gains in the stock market this year, have already boosted household wealth to another record high level. All good news for consumers. Moreover, interest rates and unemployment should remain near historic lows. And finally, healthy corporate profits and a booming global economy will also support economic conditions at home. Perhaps Sam Goldwyn was right to warn about all these predictions. It's just that they're a necessary evil. I'm Bernard Baumol.
Recapping today's market action, mergers power the Dow to another record high. The Dow gained 48 points, but the NASDAQ composite lost 1 point. To learn more about the stories in tonight's broadcast, to watch our streaming video, and to take part in our daily blog, go to Nightly Business Report on PBS.org. Or you can also email us at nbr@pbs.org.
And finally tonight, who says a trip to the grocery store can't be fashionable? Designers have come up with reusable shopping bags that are both chic and pricey. The silky Pop Hermes bag sells for nearly $1,000. Stella McCartney makes a canvas shopper for half that, just under $500. But these totes are more than fashion forward. They also help the environment, giving shoppers a green alternative to paper or plastic. And Paul, for those who don't want to break the bank, Trader Joe's sells a reusable grocery sack for $1.99.
For Mother's Day, you better get something more expensive and pricey than that.
Oh, I hope I get something better than that. Just a kiss would be nice, though.
That's good.
That's Nightly Business Report for Monday, May 7th. I'm Suzanne Pratt. Good night, everyone, and good night to you, Paul.
Good night, Suzanne. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by
Franklin Templeton Investments. Our unique perspective helps us see domestic and international markets in a different light. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective.